Chhabilendra Roul, who's the Fertilizer Secretary, joining in himself. Mr. Roul, thanks so much for joining in. Like my colleague was just highlighting, help us understand what is your own expectation from the monsoon, which the Met Department says will be near normal. What are your own industry estimates for the upcoming kharif season?
The IMD has predicted a near normal monsoon. So we expect that the consumption of fertilizer in the coming kharif season will be normal, and it will witness the normal growth trajectory. We have a system of assessing the fertilizer requirement. We have one zonal conference called by the Department of Agriculture and Cooperation, where all the stakeholders they participate, including the representative of the Department of Agriculture of the states, the Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare here in Government of India, Department of Fertilizer, and the Fertilizer Association of India and a representative of the industry. So all of them together, they have estimated that the consumption of fertilizer in the coming kharif season will be normal. It will see the normal trajectory in its growth.
The challenge for the agriculture sector is that right now there is just too much of dependence on urea, and because of what is happening to urea, the soil seems to be taking a problem. That is something which needs to be addressed, but unfortunately because of the dependence on urea, the government has not been able to address that. What are your thoughts on that?
So the government is trying to promote balanced use of fertilizers. We are having this fertilizer subsidy policy. We try to have a balance between the relative prices of different kinds of fertilizer. But we don't have control over certain factors like the international prices of gas and international prices of the fertilizers and the feedstocks which goes into production of other fertilizer than urea. So sometimes the prices do tend to go a little bit, but we have a mechanism of also monitoring the prices under the fertilizer control order, and we are monitoring regularly to keep the prices within a certain limit.
Sure. In terms of, going forward as well, reports have indicated that Rabi prices, crop prices weren't up to expectations. So what's been perhaps the commentary coming in from agri-input companies in the last quarter? What's your outlook going forward on that front?
See, the Rabi consumption of fertilizers has not gone down compared to the previous Rabi. We have seen that the point of sale of fertilizers, various kind of fertilizers, it has gone up rather. So it has gone for the farming community. And going by the fertilizer inputs, we cannot say that there is any kind of adverse impact during this Rabi season.
Why do you think the fertilizer sector has not managed to attract too much of private capex or private investment?
See, this sector is highly regulated. The private sector has its own kind of considerations for going to invest in this sector. But of late, due to our policy, particularly the new investment policy which was announced in 2015, there are 3 new fertilizer plants coming up in the private sector. One has already started production, that is Godepan in Kota, Rajasthan, and 2 more. One is a Matix, which is coming up. And Nagarjuna Fertilizer also has 2 fertilizer plants, which will be, one is operational, which will be, another will be operational shortly. So it is not that private sector is not forthcoming to invest in fertilizer sector. So the new investment policy has attracted private sector. And also we have new plants coming up in the public sector too.
What about the pending dues of the industry, the kind of payment schedule on areas that we're working on? If you could just update us on the progress there.
See, the dues are always, there will be some kind of time gap between the time the people raise the bills and the payments is made to them. In the DBT platform, we expect that when the bills are raised, we can sanction them within a week's time. But release of funds is subject to availability of funds and the budgetary allocations. So there is a little bit of a mismatch sometimes. And as of today, we don't have, we made an effort in the last quarter of the last financial year to clear all the backlog. And because of that, one time the outstandings were around 30,000 crores. It has come down to now 15,000 crores. And we have adequate provisions during the current quarter, particularly in the voter accounts. So we believe we'll be able to clear all the backlog.
Okay, so closing comments. What is your sense on urea import for this year?
Sorry?
What is your sense on the urea import for this year?
See, this is an ongoing and dynamic activity. We don't predict the kind of quantity of fertilizer we'll be importing. As and when it is required, we have a mechanism. We have one interministerial committee that takes the stock of the situation. So that goes on throughout the year, depending upon the requirement in the farming community.
Sense, because you'll have to plan FY20, right? You must have done some numbers based on the feedback which you got, that what would be India's urea import requirement this year.
The numbers go on changing depending upon the situation. Say there will be for example, the new fertilizer plants are coming up. There are certain teething problems. If those teething problems are solved and the fertilizer plants start producing, then all dynamics changes. So it is not appropriate or it is not prudent to give any particular number.
What about your policy on phosphate fertilizer? I understand urea is something which is subsidized and urea is something which will be difficult to change because of the regulation. But what is your sense on where the phosphate fertilizer industry is headed, and where do you think and how do you think that industry would be regulated?
The industry is still regulated. We have deregulated the price mechanism, but like 20% of their movement is controlled under the Fertilizer Movement Control Order. And as I stated earlier, in case the prices shoot off or it is, there is some kind of that MRP goes up significantly, then we have the monitor mechanism and we ask the fertilizer companies whether they are earning unreasonable profit. The exercise is going on, and the cabinet has authorized us, in case any particular company is unreasonably charging from the farming communities, that action will be taken against them.
Right. Okay, Mr. Roul, thanks so much for taking the time out and speaking with us today. Good to get in perspective on what's happening with the sector.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move forward.